The story began to unravel not with a bang, but with the quiet rustle of paper. Court documents, once sealed and hidden from public view, were finally opened. They contained sworn testimonies from individuals who were once part of Sean Diddy Combs's innermost circle. These were not just disgruntled employees, they were producers, assistants, security personnel, and artists. Their accounts painted a disturbing and consistent picture, one that stood in stark contrast to the glamorous public image of the music mogul. The testimonies detailed a pattern of behavior that was allegedly coercive, manipulative, and often violent. These weren't vague accusations, they were specific, naming dates, locations, and other witnesses who could corroborate their claims. The allegations laid out in these documents go far beyond what was previously known. They describe a network of enablers and a culture of fear that allegedly permeated Combs's business and personal life. Former team members spoke of non-disclosure agreements that were used not just to protect business secrets, but to silence victims. They detailed a system designed to isolate and intimidate anyone who might consider speaking out against the powerful figure at the center of it all. The consistency across multiple testimonies is what gives them their weight. It transforms the narrative from a series of isolated incidents into a potential portrait of systemic abuse, meticulously documented by the very people who were once trusted to uphold the empire's walls. Among the most chilling revelations are the detailed accounts of how influence was allegedly used to quash negative stories and manipulate legal outcomes. Witnesses described a sophisticated operation aimed at controlling the narrative long before it ever reached the press or law enforcement. This included leveraging connections in media, politics, and business to ensure a favorable public perception. The testimonies suggest a man who believed he was above the law, protected by his wealth and his extensive network of powerful friends. The documents read less like a legal filing and more like a script for a dark thriller, one where power and impunity are the central characters, and justice is a distant, almost unattainable concept. The impact of these unsealed documents has been immediate and profound. They have provided federal investigators with a roadmap, a detailed guide to the inner workings of Combs's world. For the public, it has been a sobering look behind the curtain of celebrity. The carefully crafted image of P. Diddy, the self-made billionaire, the cultural icon, has been shattered. In its place is a far more complex and troubling portrait, one pieced together by the brave individuals who chose to break their silence. Their words, now part of the public record, have set the stage for a legal and cultural reckoning that is only just beginning, raising fundamental questions about the nature of power in America. As the legal storm intensifies around Sean Combs, another, more political storm is brewing. The possibility of a presidential pardon has entered the conversation, and at the center of this debate is former President Donald Trump. A pardon for a figure as controversial as Combs would be a deeply polarizing move. It forces us to look at the motivations behind such a decision. For Trump, the calculus is complex. It involves weighing the potential benefits against the significant political risks. A pardon could be framed as a blow against a weaponized justice system, a narrative that resonates strongly with his base. It could also be seen as an appeal to specific voter demographics. The pressure on Trump is coming from multiple directions. On one side, you have influential figures within the entertainment and business worlds. These are people who move in the same circles as Combs, individuals who understand the currency of loyalty and influence. They may be quietly lobbying, reminding Trump of past support or promising future alliances. The argument they might make is one of celebrity solidarity, a defense of one of their own against what they see as a targeted takedown. This is the world of backroom deals and unspoken agreements where political capital is traded like stock. A pardon for Combs could be a signal to this powerful elite that Trump is an ally. On the other side are Trump's own political advisors. They are likely running the numbers, analyzing the polls, and gaming out the potential fallout. They understand that pardoning Combs could be seen as a grave misstep. It could alienate moderate voters and women, demographics that are crucial in any national election. It would provide his political opponents with a powerful weapon, allowing them to paint him as someone who coddles the rich and powerful at the expense of justice. The advisors would be cautioning him that the short-term gain of pleasing a few allies might not be worth the long-term damage to his political brand, especially with such serious allegations on the table. Ultimately, the decision rests with one person. Donald Trump has a history of using the presidential pardon in ways that have defied convention and sparked controversy. He has often used it to reward loyalty or to make a political statement. The Combs case presents him with a unique test. Will he listen to the whispers of his powerful friends in the entertainment industry, or will he heed the warnings of his political strategists? The choice he makes will not only determine the fate of Sean Combs, it will also tell us a great deal about the kind of presidency he intends to lead if he returns to office, and where his priorities truly lie. The mere discussion of a potential pardon for Sean Combs has sent shockwaves through the halls of Congress. This is not a typical partisan issue. The reaction has been swift and, surprisingly, bipartisan. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle have expressed deep concern and outrage. Democrats, as you might expect, have been vocal in their condemnation. They see the potential pardon as a blatant disregard for the rule of law and an insult to the alleged victims. They are framing it as yet another example of a two-tiered justice system, one for the wealthy and connected, and another for everyone else. Many are already preparing statements and legislation to prevent such an outcome. What is more surprising, however, is the reaction from Republicans. Many conservative lawmakers who often align with a law and order platform are finding it difficult to defend the idea of pardoning someone facing such serious allegations. They recognize the political toxicity of the situation. Supporting a pardon for Combs would put them at odds with their own core principles and could be damaging in their home districts. Several prominent Republican senators have already gone on record stating that a pardon would be a terrible mistake and a mockery of justice. This creates a rare moment of unity on Capitol Hill, where both parties see the danger in allowing political influence to override the judicial process. The most dramatic response has come in the form of a moral impeachment resolution. This is a symbolic but powerful move being drafted by a coalition of House members. While it carries no legal weight to remove a president from office, its purpose is to formally condemn the action. The resolution argues that a preemptive pardon in this case would constitute a gross abuse of power and a violation of the president's oath to uphold the law. It's a political maneuver designed to put maximum pressure on the White House and to force every member of Congress to take a public stand on the issue. It ensures that if a pardon is granted, it will not happen quietly. The debate in Congress highlights a fundamental tension in American democracy. It pits the president's constitutional power to grant pardons against the legislative branch's role as a check on that power. Interviews with lawmakers reveal a deep anxiety about the precedent this case could set. A Republican congressman from a swing district told me, "This isn't about Trump or Diddy. It's about whether our country still believes that no one is above the law. If we lose that, we lose everything." His Democratic colleague echoed the sentiment, saying, "We cannot allow the pardon power to become a get-out-of-jail-free card for the rich and famous." The bipartisan consensus is clear: a pardon for Combs would cross a line that many believe should never be crossed. Behind the closed doors of Mar-a-Lago and within the tight-knit circle of Donald Trump's advisors, the debate over a potential pardon for Sean Combs is reportedly intense. Sources close to the former president describe a stark division among his team. There are two main camps, each with a different view of the political landscape and the consequences of such a monumental decision. This is not just a legal question, it is a strategic one that could impact the future of the campaign and a potential second term. The conversations are happening in hushed tones, but the stakes could not be higher for everyone involved in these private deliberations. One faction, often described as the pragmatists, is vehemently opposed to a pardon. This group is led by seasoned political strategists and lawyers who are focused on the broader electoral map. They are armed with polling data showing that a pardon would be deeply unpopular with key demographics, including suburban women and independent voters. Their argument is simple: the political cost is far too high. They believe it would hand a potent weapon to political opponents, allowing them to relentlessly attack Trump as being soft on crime and beholden to corrupt elites. They are urging caution, advising the former president to let the legal process play out and to distance himself from the controversy entirely. In the opposing corner are the loyalists and outside influencers. This camp includes figures from the entertainment industry and longtime allies who believe that loyalty should be rewarded above all else. They are reportedly reminding Trump of Combs's past overtures and the potential to galvanize support within certain cultural spheres. Their argument is more ideological. They frame the federal investigation into Combs as another example of a deep state witch hunt, similar to the narratives Trump has used to describe his own legal battles. For them, a pardon would be a bold act of defiance, a way for Trump to show strength and to protect an ally from a system they view as corrupt and politically motivated. Caught in the middle of this tug-of-war is Donald Trump himself. He is known to value loyalty and to relish opportunities to disrupt political norms. He is also known to be highly sensitive to public perception and his political brand. He is likely hearing compelling arguments from both sides. Does he follow the advice of his pragmatic campaign managers who warn of electoral disaster? Or does he listen to the voices of loyal friends who encourage him to fight back against the establishment? The final decision will likely come down to his own gut instinct, a factor that has defined his political career and made him one of the most unpredictable figures in modern American history. The controversy surrounding Sean Combs and the potential for a presidential pardon has, really fractured the entertainment world. The silence from many of Hollywood's biggest names is honestly deafening, but beneath that silence, a deep and bitter divide is growing. This is not just another celebrity scandal, it's become a litmus test for where one stands on issues of power, accountability, and justice. The battle lines are being drawn, not just in public statements but in private conversations, text messages, and those shuttered boardroom meetings. The situation has forced artists and executives to choose a side, and for many, there is simply no easy answer. The result is a quiet civil war playing out across the industry. On one side you have a small but vocal group of public figures who have defended Combs or, at the very least, called for a presumption of innocence. One of the most prominent examples is Kanye West, now known as Ye. He has publicly framed the allegations against Combs as part of a broader conspiracy to tear down powerful black men. His statements, often delivered through social media, resonate with a segment of the population that is, deeply distrustful of mainstream institutions and the media. This camp argues that Combs is being unfairly targeted and that the legal system is being used to settle scores. Their defense is often intertwined with complex themes of race, power, and systemic bias. On the other side is a growing chorus of celebrities, particularly women, who have voiced their support for the alleged victims. They are using their platforms to speak out against what they see as a culture of impunity that has long protected powerful men in the entertainment industry. Many have drawn parallels to the Me Too movement, arguing that this is a critical moment for accountability. These artists are calling for the legal process to proceed without political interference. They see a potential pardon as a devastating setback for victims everywhere, a message that if you are powerful enough, you can escape the consequences of your actions. Their stance is one of solidarity with the accusers and a demand for systemic change. The vast majority of celebrities, however, remain caught in the middle, choosing to stay silent. This silence is not necessarily a sign of indifference. For many, it's a calculated decision based on fear. They fear the professional repercussions of speaking out against a powerful figure like Combs. They fear the social media backlash from a deeply divided public. They fear being dragged into a complex legal battle. This widespread silence speaks volumes about the power dynamics at play in Hollywood and the music industry. It reveals a culture where speaking truth to power can come at a significant personal and professional cost, leaving many feeling that honestly the safest option is to say nothing at all. The drama surrounding Sean Combs and a potential presidential pardon is not just an American story. It's being closely watched by international observers, and the reaction is honestly a mixture of fascination, confusion, and condemnation. Foreign media outlets are covering the story extensively, often presenting it as a case study in the peculiarities of the American legal and political systems. For many outside the United States, the idea that a president could unilaterally absolve a public figure of serious crimes before a trial has even begun is simply astonishing. It's seen as a feature of the American system that is, ripe for abuse and contrary to democratic norms. In the United Kingdom, for example, the press has been particularly critical. Newspapers like The Guardian and The Times have published editorials comparing the situation to the historical power of monarchs to issue royal pardons, a practice largely abandoned in modern democracies. They portray the potential pardon as a symptom of a deeper political decay in the US, where celebrity culture and political power have merged in a, frankly, dangerous way. British legal commentators have expressed bewilderment at a system that allows for such a preemptive strike against the judicial process. The coverage often carries a tone of dismay, suggesting that America's commitment to the rule of law is being tested in an unprecedented manner. In Canada, the reaction has been more measured but equally concerned. Canadian news outlets like the CBC and the Globe and Mail have focused on the implications for the principle of separation of powers. They question how a justice system can function effectively if the executive branch can intervene so decisively before the courts have had a chance to hear evidence and render a verdict. To our northern neighbors, who share a common law tradition, the move is seen as a serious threat to judicial independence. It's often framed as a uniquely American problem, a product of a political culture that has become increasingly polarized and personality-driven. Meanwhile, in France, commentators have taken a more philosophical approach. Publications like Le Monde have analyzed the story through the lens of celebrity and power. They see it as an extreme example of American celebrity impunity, where fame and wealth create a protective shield against accountability. French intellectuals are exploring what this says about the state of American society and its values. The potential pardon is viewed not just as a legal anomaly but as a cultural phenomenon, a reflection of a society where the lines between entertainment, politics, and justice have become dangerously blurred. The world is indeed watching, and what they see is a nation grappling with fundamental questions about its own integrity. The controversy over a potential pardon for Sean Combs transcends the individuals involved. It strikes at the very heart of the American legal system. The core issue is how a pretrial pardon would impact the separation of powers, a foundational principle of the U.S. Constitution. This doctrine ensures that the three branches of government, executive, legislative, and judicial, operate independently and act as checks on one another. A presidential pardon, especially one issued before a trial or even formal charges, represents a powerful assertion of executive authority over the judicial branch. It effectively halts the legal process in its tracks, preventing the courts from fulfilling their constitutional duty to adjudicate guilt or innocence. Legal scholars are sounding the alarm about the dangerous precedent this would set. If a president can pardon an individual before the facts of a case are even presented in a courtroom, it could create a chilling effect on future investigations. Why would prosecutors invest time and resources in complex cases against powerful, politically connected individuals if the entire process could be nullified by a single stroke of the president's pen? This could weaken the deterrent effect of the law and embolden those who believe they can act with impunity. It risks transforming the pardon power from a tool of mercy, as the framers intended, into a political weapon used to protect allies and undermine the judiciary. This situation has ignited a debate about potential reforms to the presidential pardon power. While the Constitution grants the president broad authority to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, some legal experts argue that this power is not absolute. They suggest that Congress could pass legislation to create transparency requirements, such as mandating a public report on the reasons for a pardon. Others have floated the more radical idea of a constitutional amendment to limit the pardon power, for instance, by prohibiting preemptive pardons or pardons for individuals with whom the president has a personal or financial connection. These are difficult conversations, but the Combs case has made them feel more urgent than ever. The ultimate consequence of a pretrial pardon in this case would be a significant erosion of public trust in the justice system. It would reinforce the perception that there are two sets of rules in America, one for the average citizen and another for the wealthy, famous, and politically connected. When justice appears to be for sale or for trade, faith in the entire system begins to crumble. The courts rely on their legitimacy to function. If the public believes that their decisions can be arbitrarily overturned for political reasons, that legitimacy is compromised. This case is no longer just about Sean Combs or Donald Trump, it is a trial for the American ideal of equal justice under law. While politicians debate and lawyers argue, the final verdict on the political wisdom of a pardon will be delivered in the court of public opinion. Recent polling data reveals a deeply divided and highly engaged American public. The numbers show that this is not an issue that is flying under the radar. People are paying attention, and they have strong opinions. According to a recent nationwide poll conducted by Reuters Ipsos, a staggering 72% of Americans are opposed to the idea of a presidential pardon for Sean Combs before his case goes to trial. This opposition is remarkably consistent across demographic lines, including age, gender, and income level. The partisan breakdown of the polling data offers some fascinating insights. While opposition is highest among Democrats, with 85% against a pardon, a significant majority of Republicans, 61%, also oppose the move. This suggests that even among Trump's own base, the idea of pardoning a celebrity accused of serious crimes does not sit well. It conflicts with the law and order principles that many conservatives hold dear. The most crucial number, however, may be the 70% of independent voters who are against a pardon. This is the group that often decides elections, and their strong opposition should be a major red flag for any political campaign. Social media sentiment analysis tells a similar story. Across platforms like X, formerly Twitter, and Facebook, the conversation is overwhelmingly negative toward a potential pardon. Hashtags like #NoDiddyPardon and #JusticeForVictims have trended multiple times. Digital analytics firms report that for every post supporting a pardon, there are approximately 9 posts opposing it. This digital outcry is being driven by a diverse coalition of users, from political activists to celebrity gossip followers to ordinary citizens who are simply outraged by what they see as a potential miscarriage of justice. The online conversation is a powerful indicator of the grassroots energy surrounding this issue. What these numbers and trends make clear is that a presidential pardon for Sean Combs would be a deeply unpopular act. It is not a niche issue that only political junkies care about. It has captured the public's attention and tapped into a deep well of frustration with a system that many feel is rigged in favor of the rich and powerful. The court of public opinion has, for the most part, already reached a verdict. Americans believe that the legal process should be allowed to run its course, free from political interference. Any decision to the contrary would be a direct defiance of the expressed will of the people. As this complex saga unfolds, Donald Trump stands at a crossroads. The decision he makes regarding a potential pardon for Sean Combs will have far-reaching consequences, not just for the individuals involved, but for the nation's political and legal landscape. There are essentially 3 possible scenarios that could play out, each with its own unique set of political calculations and legal ramifications. These paths represent a critical choice between political expediency, institutional integrity, and personal loyalty. The path he chooses will be a defining moment, revealing his priorities and setting the tone for what is to come. The first and perhaps most explosive scenario is that Trump grants a full and preemptive pardon. This would be a bold, disruptive move, consistent with his political brand. The immediate consequence would be a political firestorm. His opponents would decry it as a gross abuse of power, and it would likely dominate news cycles for weeks, potentially damaging his standing with moderate and independent voters. Legally, it would end the federal case against Combs, but could spark constitutional challenges and calls for congressional reform. This path would please his most ardent loyalists, but would risk alienating a much broader swath of the electorate. The second scenario is the path of strategic silence and inaction. Trump could choose to let the legal process play out without any interference. This would be the politically safest route. By staying out of the controversy, he would avoid the backlash and allow the justice system to do its job. This approach would likely be favored by his more pragmatic advisors, who would argue that the risks of intervention are simply too great. The legal consequence is that the case against Combs would proceed, subject to the evidence and the decisions of the courts. Politically, it would neutralize the issue, taking a potent weapon away from his opponents. The third possibility is a more nuanced, middle ground approach. Trump could publicly toy with the idea of a pardon without ever actually granting one. He could use the possibility as a way to rally his base against the weaponized justice system, all while stopping short of taking the final irreversible step. This would allow him to signal loyalty to his allies and generate media attention without incurring the full political cost of an actual pardon. Legally, this would have no impact on the case, but politically, it would keep the controversy alive, serving as a constant talking point and a symbol of his ongoing battle with the establishment. It's a high-wire act that attempts to get the benefits of both sides without the full consequences of either. Ultimately, the decision rests on the shoulders of one man. As citizens, this moment invites us to reflect on deeper questions. What is the proper role of the pardon power in a modern democracy? Where do we draw the line between mercy and impunity? And how do we ensure that our system of justice is truly blind, treating all individuals equally regardless of their wealth, fame, or political connections? The path chosen in the coming weeks will provide an answer, not just about the fate of one man, but about the character of our nation and the principles we hold most dear. We invite you to share your views.